What's up, everybody? Jordan McAbee here, lead NASCAR analyst for RotoBaller. NASCAR Cup Series heads to the midway point of the season this weekend at New Hampshire Motor Speedway with the USA Today 301. We are officially at race number 18 of the 36 race season, right at that halfway point. New Hampshire, 1 mile flat track, so we're sticking with this current trend of similar track types, these short flat tracks, which gives us a lot of good data to look at, a lot of recent who's fast, knowing who's fast, and who should be good this weekend at New Hampshire. New Hampshire is one of those tracks we only visit once a year. We haven't been here since last summer, but it's a relatively predictable racetrack, as is a lot of these short flat tracks. Track position is going to be very important. And then just overall flat track speed, we know who's fast at these track types. Like I said, this season we've already raced at Phoenix. We've raced at Richmond, North Wilkesboro, Gateway, Iowa, all shorter flat tracks. You could also include Martinsville if you really want to. That's kind of an outlier, though. It's a very short, it's a half-mile track. It is flat and it's unique, so we typically don't include that when we're looking at tracks like New Hampshire, Phoenix, and these other shorter flat tracks on the schedule. But if you wanted to, you could include Martinsville. In other words, we've been to a lot of short flat tracks this year. We know who's fast at these tracks. Will those same people have speed this weekend at New Hampshire, though? A few things I'm keying on heading into this race weekend. First one, Joe Gibbs Racing versus Hendrick Motorsports. New Hampshire has been JGR's playground over the last few years in the next-gen era. Hendrick Motorsports has historically struggled at this racetrack. Will that continue? There's also a few playoff bubble drivers that I'm keeping an eye on this week that need a good run. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first off, before we get into this, if you have not subscribed to the premium NASCAR content over at RotoBaller, make sure you do. Plus 49 units in betting over the last 15 races, plus 7.5 units over the last 2 weeks. Use code Jordan24. You're going to save some money off your subscription. Get in on that winning. Betting cards have been absolutely killing it. Also includes my premium DraftKings projections for every single race, DraftKings picks, and the algorithm predicted finishing order, which can be great for betting, great for fantasy. But let's get into this race. First off, the favorites. Christopher Bell plus 450. No surprise here. Absolute rocket ship at Phoenix this year. Absolute rocket ship at Gateway. Could have won the race last weekend at Iowa. He won the race here at New Hampshire in 2022. He finished second in 2021. 3 starts here, 3 wins in the Xfinity Series. If he's not your pre-race favorite this weekend, you just want him to be different. Christopher Bell is the clear-cut favorite heading into this race weekend. No surprise there at plus 450. I actually don't mind betting early week Christopher Bell plus 450. I think he could show a ton of speed in practice, qualify well, and those odds will get shorter. So heading on, our next driver, Martin Truex Jr., plus 500. He's almost a co-favorite with Christopher Bell in some of these books. He has won all 4 stages here at New Hampshire in the next-gen era, led 426 laps here over the last 2 races, which is just crazy. 7th or better in 8 of his last 9 starts here, and he leads all drivers in career laps led at New Hampshire with 1,170, 5-1. I'm not really betting Truex at 5-1. I'd rather be over on Christopher Bell at plus 450. But Truex should be a contender this weekend. Still looking for his first race win of the 2024 season. And of course, you need to talk about Denny Hamlin when we're at short flat tracks. He's at plus 650. He's a 3-time New Hampshire winner. 7th and 6th here in the last 2 races. No top 5s, but you have to note that he did start further back in both those races. He started 20th and 14th. 5th best average running position on shorter flat tracks in the next-gen era. Denny Hamlin should definitely be a contender this race weekend. Moving on, as I said, Hendrick Motorsports has struggled here a little bit at New Hampshire, especially when compared to Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Larson sitting at plus 750. It's not very often we see him at that long of odds. I say Larson has struggled here, but he's finished top 3 5 of his 13 career starts in New Hampshire. Surprisingly, though, and this is the point that I've kind of honed in on this week, he's only led 22 laps here in those 13 career starts. Finished 3rd here last year, 5th best average running position on short flat tracks in 2024. Larson should be good, but maybe not great. Like I said, plus 750, attractive to bet him at. Have not hit it yet, but would not dispute anybody that wants to bet that. William Byron in that 24 Chevrolet for Hendrick surprisingly opened at 20-1, which is an immediate bet. I immediately bet that because it's William Byron. Like he's going, and I don't care what track it is. If William Byron's at 20-1, you have to bet him. But here's a stat for you. 0 top 10 finishes in 6 career starts at New Hampshire. William Byron has yet to even crack the top 10. But Big name driver to keep an eye on. Second best average running position on short flat tracks this year. Best average running position on short flat tracks since the start of 2023. Byron, I think, still should be a contender. You also have to look back, and Nick and I talked about this in the Stacking Denny's podcast this week. There have been situations where Byron may have been testing in previous seasons, and then Hendrick just kind of went through a summer lull last year where they didn't have the speed. That could definitely, at least over these last 2 years, be a reason why Byron has not been very good here at New Hampshire, but could definitely surprise, would not be surprising at all if William Byron was fast at New Hampshire this weekend. And then you got Chase Elliott, 14-1. I'm not really betting that at 14-1, but if qualifying gets rained out, Chase Elliott will start on the pole this weekend. Track position going to be very important, as it is with every short flat track. And Chase also has the fastest pit crew this year. So something to consider there. He finished second here in New Hampshire in 2022. 3 top 10s in 10 career starts, which is a little low. Like I said, Hendrick Motorsports, particularly not that great at New Hampshire. Best average running position, though, for Chase Elliott on short flat tracks this year overall. His top 10 odds opened at minus 130. I'm mad at myself that I did not bite. It's now minus 167. Can't really hit that, but if you got it at minus 130, that was a very good bet. I really like Chase Elliott for a top 10 this weekend. Same for Brad Keselowski, minus 125 when he opened. Definitely hit that. Keselowski should be good this weekend at New Hampshire, as he always is. Moving down in the playoff bubble, though, we got 2 guys that really need good runs. First off, Joey Logano, 9-1. His odds are a little bit shorter than normal. We typically see, Logano in those double-digit odds no matter the track. So that should say what sportsbooks are predicting for Logano this weekend at New Hampshire. He's a 2-time winner at this racetrack, finished second here last year, 3 top 5s in the last 4 Loudon races, 3rd best average running position on short flat tracks this year, 4th best average running position short flat tracks in the next gen era. He's the only Penske car without a win. I wouldn't bet him outright at 9-1, but he should be strong. Would not be surprised to see Logano challenge for this win. If you remember back to Richmond earlier this year, late in that race, Logano arguably had the best car in that race. Penske overall has found some more speed as this season has progressed. So Logano should be very strong this weekend. Would not be surprised at all to see him win and lock himself in. Like I said, not the pre-race favorite, but definitely a very strong contender. Another guy on the playoff bubble that needs a good run is Kyle Busch. 3-time New Hampshire winner, 3 finishes of 36th or worse, though, in the last 4 races at this track. That can be attributed to some bad luck, some wrecks. Before that, 8th or better in 10 of his last 12 starts in New Hampshire. Kyle Busch is very good at this racetrack. RCR speed is always questionable, but Busch, there's been times this year that Busch has shown flashes of top 5 speed and potential race-winning speed. So keep an eye on Kyle Busch this weekend. If you want to sprinkle a little bit on 35-1 for him to win, I honestly don't hate that. It's a little bit long, especially when, compared to some guy that's in a similar position with Joey Logano at 9-1. Don't mind Kyle Busch at all. Speaking of sleepers, though, there are a couple that I have my eye on heading into this race weekend at New Hampshire. Josh Berry's at 40-1. Unfortunately, sportsbooks have woken up to Josh Berry's increased speed this year. Berry, that team is not on fire, but they have definitely picked up the pace recently, especially on these short flat tracks. He's 7th at Iowa last week, and this team, like I said, is finding a groove. 6 finishes of 16th or better in the last 8 races. To me, there's no betting value out there right now. I'm not betting him outright. I'm even top 10. He's like plus 120 out there. Not betting that. But one long shot that I am thinking about betting, is Todd Gilliland, not outright to win. He's 300-1 to win. But he finishes a 21st and 25th in his 2 starts here at New Hampshire, which is pretty good compared to, how that team ran these last 2 seasons. But that team's on fire right now for, comparatively speaking, to where they typically are. Between 10th and 17th place finishes in the last 6 races. He was 12th at Iowa last week. Looking at other short flat tracks, 16th at Gateway this year, 17th at Phoenix this year. If you want to throw in Martinsville, he was 13th there. Why not bet Todd Gilliland at 9-1 for a top 10 finish? That team has found more speed. They're performing really well right now. The only Achilles heel for them is their pit crew. They tend to lose spots, which could definitely hurt Todd Gilliland in the long run here at New Hampshire. But overall, this should be a relatively predictable race. Make sure you check in on RotoBaller content this weekend. Like I said, use code Jordan24. That's going to save you some money off your subscription. Also, that code is now good for weekly passes. So if you just want to try it out for a week, use that code. You're also going to save some money. Like I said, Jordan 24. One thing to keep an eye on this weekend, I mentioned it with Chase Elliott. There's a lot of rain in the forecast at New Hampshire this weekend. That could change some things. We could potentially not get practice. Qualifying could potentially get rained out. Just something to keep an eye on, but we do have a strong, we know who's good at the short flat tracks. We know who's good at New Hampshire. We should be able to relatively with pretty good confidence predict this race despite limited track time if that rain does come. So good luck this race weekend. Hopefully we see a good race in New Hampshire. I will say that these races tend to have, just one dominator or maybe two dominators. That's just how it is here at New Hampshire. So if you don't like that, maybe find something else to do while you're watching the race on Sunday. So good luck this weekend at New Hampshire, and we'll be back next week.